Let's talk about something that messes with people pretty deep. When faith becomes a weapon.
When scripture is used to keep you quiet and you start asking, is this abuse or is this obedience? If you've ever been told God hates divorce, pray harder, submit more, be a better wife or a husband.
Yeah, like the solution is always you shrinking and religion is weaponized and abuse. I want you to be able to spot spiritual manipulation and separate faith from control.
Welcome back to the Touch My Health podcast.
Today is not an attack on faith, and we are not advocating for more separation and more divorces. It's an exposure of control, because real faith does not require you to suffer in silence. Mm-hmm. Is enduring abuse what God wants? No. Commitment is not the same thing as tolerating harm and abuse. And forgiveness is not the same thing as access. So what does that mean? Let's separate these. Forgive if you choose to, but you don't owe them continued access to you. Forgiveness is not a permission slip for more harm, right? The Bible doesn't say forgive and forget and remain in harm's way. Forgiveness is essential, and as Christians or many other beliefs, we are actually commanded to forgive others because God has also forgiven them. However, there is a distinguishing factor between the internal act of letting go of hatred, right, and the external reality of safety, justice, and reconciliation. Also, remember, forgiveness is for you. It's for you, it's for us. It's not for them. It's not for the other person.
Let me ask you, the viewer, do you feel guilty for having needs? Do you feel sinful for setting boundaries? That's not faith, that's conditioning. That is the product of abuse manipulating you into thinking that you must stay through all these horrible things because it's what God wants or what you're supposed to do. Let's talk about some examples, which could be weaponizing submission, or where they are misinterpreting concepts like submission to claim authority, right? They'll say like submit, but they skip the love part.
Right.
For example, like Ephesians 5:22 says, wives, submit to your husbands as to the Lord. But
they missed the second part of that.
They missed the second part, which is Ephesians 5:25. Further down, it says, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her.
Yeah.
So while, they're talking about the instruction to the wives,
that one's misinterpreted
a lot.
Or not, I wouldn't say misinterpreted. That's the one that's used and weaponized quite a bit, I feel like, more than, the others.
Yes.
While the instruction to wives is emphasized, the instructions to husbands is, not as much emphasized.
Right. And further down in Ephesians 5:25 is where it talks about a little bit more demand for the husband.
Yeah. Which is, again, why sometimes that's not talked about as much.
That's why it's skipped over or not dived into as much. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, they'll say pray or pressure you to forgive and forget, but they never take accountability. And accountability is where the problem lies. They say, be patient, or imply that maybe you're going through like a spiritual test while you're being harmed.
Yeah, it can happen and be manipulative, and another key verse is similar to the Ephesians, but it's Colossians 3:18. It says, wives, submit to your husbands as is fitting in the Lord. Well, there's a limit of authority there. The phrase "as is fitting in the Lord" acts as a boundary, right? If a husband asks a wife to do something sinful or harmful or dangerous, it's no longer fitting. It's not in the Bible, and it's not in God's plan.
That's not something that will win his approval or
Agreed.
gain you any closer to what your spirituality is trying to bring you to. And your partner and you should be doing that together, and he shouldn't be asking you to do harmful or dangerous or, that's a good one. That's actually a really, really good one.
Yeah, because mutual submission is the preamble. And like you said, it's a husband and a wife. So mutually submitting to each other is the preamble. It's instructions for wives and husbands to submit together to themselves. The instruction for wives begins in verse Ephesians 5:21, where it commands everyone to submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. This means that the relationship is intended to be a partnership. It's not a one-way street of obedience.
Yeah, and a summary of what submission is also not is it's not a license to abuse. God never gives a husband the authority to be, harsh, embittered, or violent. It is not total silence. It's not meant to erase a woman's voice, like,
Right.
just shut up and take it. That's not what it's about. It's not meant to erase a woman's opinions or their own boundaries.
Yeah, it's not I'm the man, I'm the sole provider, so you must submit at every
Everything I
instance
say, right.
and have to follow everything I say. There has to be a mutual submission.
And it's the same for, roles reversed on the women's end too. But
Right.
it's not safety at any cost. No scripture requires a person to stay in physical or extreme emotional danger.
Yeah.
If the message always benefits the person in power, it's not guidance, it's control. If scripture is used to silence you, it's being weaponized. It's a form of coercive control, using a person's deepest convictions as a weapon to ensure compliance. Do you feel like people who intentionally want to be deceptive, or like, how a lot of times you'll find that teachers are sleeping with their students, molesting kids, and then we also hear it a lot with pastors,
Yep.
preachers, and doing things inappropriately with younger children. Do you think that people like that purposefully choose those professions and those avenues so they have access to the evil things they want to do easier? And then how hard does it make it for the people who truly choose those avenues in life because it's their calling and their desire to help and to be servants and, educators or whatever? I thought of teachers and preachers or pastors, when I was thinking about this.
That's a hell of a question. I would say some probably choose that profession because they have access to children and they have unsupervised access to those children. We'll take Catholic priests, for example.
That's
right?
why I asked you this, because I know how you feel about
That's a very hot button for me, but I do believe that there are some really great priests, pastors out there, but I do think that some of them choose this path because they have a deeper evil meaning behind
ulterior
it.
motive.
They have ulterior motive, 100%. The thing that really gets me is that these people are covered for. They're not held to the same standard.
They're not held accountable a lot of times.
They're not held accountable. They're not put in jail. They don't go to death row. A lot
It has
of
to
it
be really bad for.
A lot of it is washed away, pushed under the rug because of their profession. So do I think? Yes. I do think some. I think there are really great pastors, really great priests that have a very pure heart in choosing that and want to help people, want to be Christ-like. But I also think there's the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Just like I believe that there's a God and a devil, because there has to be a ruler of one and the other. I do believe there is good and evil in religion,
Yeah.
in the highest power of religion beneath God.
One, it's also why I think you can't, it's very hard. Don't let one bad apple ruin the whole orchard. Is that what the term is?
Sure. Yeah.
Remember that there are people who choose certain professions like that because that is their conviction, that's their calling. They want to help, they want to serve, they want to do those types of things. And you can't let the bad apples just completely take over and ruin the image and how you feel about it as a whole.
Right.
It's like, good cop, bad cop. There's bad cops out there for
Right.
sure. There's bad teachers out there. There's bad, I do accounting on the side. There's bad accountants. Everybody knows Enron and all that stuff,
Yeah.
that you shouldn't let the bad apples define the entire orchard.
Agreed. There's also something to think about. Priests and pastors can abuse and can manipulate people, but also children, with Bible verses, and use that as a form of abuse to submit to them because they are in a power. They are in a state of authority, a position of authority. So they use those Bible verses as a form of manipulation to get this poor child to submit to them and do as they want.
What's the cult? The one guy who had all these different wives and married all these kids, and it was this community and
Polygamy,
he was,
yeah.
Yeah, but it was I forget what church it was. I want to say Mormon, but I don't know that it was Mormon.
Probably.
But he went to jail, but he was disgusting individual.
Yeah, well,
polygamy
is in Utah, and it's practiced in Utah predominantly, anyways, in the Mormon religion.
But they were in a compound,
Yeah.
This was not like we go to church every Sunday.
Is this the TV show you're talking about?
I can't remember. It's not
Because there was that guy
remember,
and his 3 wives or 4 wives or whatever on
not
TV.
that one. No, this was it was a religious community. Like I said, not we go to church on Sundays. It was they were all living in this kind of compound, and the man basically was just taking all the wives from the men to marry him, and then the children. And
Oh, you talking about the one in Waco?
No, that's a different one. This one I think was in. I'll have to look it up.
Okay.
But but manipulating.
Yes.
Teachings and people. I know polygamy is wrong. It's not in the Bible, and that's what I believe. So if you're going to tell me that I have to be your wife along with 5 other people, and especially half of them, or however many of them, are children under the age of 18, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, you're evil.
Ju-
No, thank you.
Agreed. Just like you said, it's control, it's manipulation, and it is abuse, using Bible verses as abuse and using the Bible against you to benefit them, the abuser, right? They're taking the Bible verses and
Cherry picking
them and swapping them to where it benefits them. And that is where that abusive behavior can really be recognized and twisted.
Yeah.
To where, like you said, they'll take a man's wife from them, and that now becomes his wife. And then that happens again and again, just as a form of control.
Gross. Mm-hmm. Babe, if someone came up to me and they were like, I'm sorry, but I need your lady, I need to marry her. And it's just something you have to let happen. And you'll be rewarded in heaven with,
Oh, yeah.
10 of her. Just give me her.
Really?
Yeah. You better be like,
We're going to figure
we're
out
going to fight in New York.
who is better at fighting. We're going to figure that out real quick. We'll figure out who gets to go see
just
God first.
Say, yeah, that definitely, I totally understand. Hey, I want to show you this thing in the back that I've been building
Yeah.
for a while now. It's really cool. Maybe you can help me.
Yeah.
My,
This sharpened machete, yeah. I think that there's a lot of people that are okay with polygamy, and I think monogamy is
I think it's
whitewashed a little
are,
bit. I think that it's become in 2026. It's become a little bit looser in the term.
It's because the climate we live in, that people don't. They don't. What's the word I'm looking for? They don't respect monogamy. They don't respect relationships.
Yeah.
They don't respect themselves. There is no more the self-respect that you have for yourself to stay committed to one person and only that person, and actually be honest and have integrity. That's like, just so not something that in 2026, a lot of, especially the younger generation, care about.
I think it's a lot because not maybe as much of the lack of respect for yourself, but it's that we stopped caring and stopped reading the Bible, and we stopped as a generation stopped leading by example and trying to be more Christ-like. I think that a lot of the monogamy and monogamous relationships versus polygamous relationships, monogamy is very hard. And when you are monogamous,
I disagree.
Okay. When you are in a committed relationship to one person, it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of patience. Takes a lot of respect, mutual respect. Like we talked about, the dual submission. You submit to me as though I submit to you. I mean, you have to be able to have that give and take when
there's defined roles.
When there are defined roles for sure. We have defined roles. It's not just me, man. Ooh.
No, there's
woman.
When I say there's defined roles for husband and wives, men and women, I don't mean it as a misogynistic and then inferior, like men misogynistic, women inferior.
Right.
There's just, if you want to go biblical, there's roles.
Yeah.
But I don't think monogamy is hard. I think any relationship is hard and difficult, whether it's with one person or many people. I don't agree with polygamy, but I mean, good Lord, if monogamy is hard, can you imagine polygamy? So you're telling me I got to deal with 3, 4, 5 of them? To me, polygamy is just, you're manipulating the situation to be selfish so you can indulge physically in things that you want and then try and justify it.
Yeah.
That's all that
but
is.
You don't have to commit to one person. You can commit to several people.
You can commit to 20.
Which is that really commitment? I don't think so.
No, it's just you giving into your desires to be with multiple people and try and justify it based on whatever dogma you're thinking.
Mm-hmm. And I think that with polygamy, you can justify it, but it's not justified with Bible verses.
No.
It's justified in personal feelings. It's justified in wants.
Depends on what Bible you are reading.
I've never read a Bible about
not the one that I think is
polygamy.
The Bible.
That's not in the King James version.
No, but like the Book of Mormon or something, I think isn't that the polygamous?
I've never read the Book of Mormon, so I don't want to even try to.
But that's feel like that's the religion where polygamy is Maybe we'll have to do more research about that, but I feel like that's the one that comes to mind where it's more prevalent.
Yes. Like I said, it's practiced in Utah predominantly.
Yeah, they have a big Mormon community there. But I mean, we know my brother-in-law is I don't know if he still is a Mormon, but he didn't have multiple wives. It was just my sister would have kicked his ass.
Yeah. And a lot of my dad's side of the family is Mormon. They didn't have multiple wives. There
Is it
are
Graham's?
my grandma is Mormon, yeah. But it's all my dad's side of the family are all in, and for what I know, none of them have multiple wives. So it's
No
not
secret life.
yeah, it's not every Mormon or whatever,
No,
but there is definitely something to say about polygamy, whether you believe or think it's right or wrong. It's not in the Bible. And I think where you were talking about cults, that's where that they throw that Bible verse, whatever Bible verse they want, into the control and the manipulation to justify their polygamous behavior.
Trash. Why is leaving so hard when faith is involved? Because now the fear isn't just, will they be mad? It's, will God be mad at me? When your relationship is intertwined with your relationship with God, leaving can feel like you are not just leaving a person, but abandoning your faith. And that can be extremely heavy.
Yes.
Spiritual abuse creates unique psychological hurdles that make escaping an abusive relationship a little bit harder. And here's what happens psychologically. So first, shame gets tied to safety in a healthy environment. Seeking safety is a basic instinct for survival, right? It's pretty basic for all humans.
Yes.
And in an abusive spiritual relationship, an abusive spiritual environment, safety is then now reframed as you have a lack of faith. So the trap is if you try to protect yourself, which is a basic survival instinct, by leaving or reporting the abuse, the abuser may tell you that, you're fleeing the refiner's fire or doubting God's protection. And so as a result of that, you begin to feel ashamed for wanting to be safe, and you feel like a spiritual failure, if you will, for not being strong enough to endure the harm. So you stay to prove your devotion.
Which is, again, a form of manipulation and that
Coercive control.
That coercive control, because now I'm using that as a mechanism to get you to submit and to get you to listen to me at every point. And again, very toxic behavior, and to make
evil behavior,
to make you question your own faith, and saying that because you don't listen to me, because you don't do as I say, or you're just trying to you are trying to say that my behavior towards you is abusive, or you're trying to leave me and get away from me. So you don't, you don't love God.
Yeah.
You don't love God, and you don't have faith because you want to leave this relationship. It's just a one big guilt trip, and guilt gets tied to boundaries, and boundaries are essential for healthy relationships. You have to have boundaries, but spiritual abusers often label them as rebellion or unforgiveness, and that's the trap. When you say no to a demand or to stop their behavior, the abuse triggers you and your conscience by claiming you're obstructing God's work or you're closing your heart. And the result to that is every time you try to set a boundary, you're flooded with intense guilt. And when you feel that guilt, you feel like you're sinning against God. And by protecting your own autonomy, which can make you feel obligated to remain compliant. And you just have to remember, God doesn't see it that way.
No.
It's
No,
not.
you're just being manipulated to think he does.
And community pressure becomes a cage. In some faith-based communities, your social, emotional, and spiritual lives are often completely overlapping.
Right.
So the trap is that the community may use accountability or circles of prayer to monitor and pressure you to stay. And they might imply that if you leave the relationship, you're also leaving the church. You're leaving your spiritual family, and the result is the fear of being shunned or isolated from the church and, maybe that church community, which puts you into isolation and puts you into a cage, which, the
community should be the sanctuary.
Correct.
It should not feel like a cage.
Yeah. And leaving the abuser can, become the loss of your entire support system. But making the exit can feel practical and emotionally impossible, but should be possible. And I know that when I was in a church group, we had a group on, I think it was like Wednesdays. We had a Bible study, and we discussed the possibility of my first wife and I getting divorced. And I felt like there was a lot of pressure from them to stay. And so I know exactly what that feels like, where maybe because the divorce is looked at differently, you can feel a little bit of pressure from the church community.
Well, I think most, depending on how in-depth you went, right? So I would say most times if you are in some sort of Bible study or group and you approach that subject and say, you and your spouse are thinking about getting divorced, most people will probably tell you and give you the advice to stay or work it out, because they don't, unless you have spoken about the reasons why, that is the go-to answer. But if they, if people know in the community that you're being abused, you're being harmed, you're being deceived, you're being manipulated, and they tell you to stay just for the sake of, because that's what God would want, or,
the sanctity
no,
of marriage.
he doesn't want you to be hurt. He doesn't want you to be harmed. So a lot of times, like I said, depending on what the in-depth level you went in explaining why you were thinking that to me is a typical response, though. I couldn't see a lot of Bible study groups or whatever just automatically being like, screw her, divorce her,
Yeah.
Especially with no context behind
There was a lot of discussion and definitely a lot of, I don't think we went too much in depth, but there was definitely, we approached it with the group. And, it shed a different light because they were trying to keep it together, trying to hold us together, and at a time that it didn't really feel like it could continue.
Yeah, that's hard sometimes.
It was. Here's a quick gut check. Are you more afraid of being judged than being harmed? Ask yourself, are you more afraid of disappointing people than protecting yourself?
If yes, you're not crazy. Pain is not proof you're obedient. Church it's kind of like the same thing with therapy. Sometimes you have to go to a bunch of different therapists to find the one that you connect with that's going to really help push you in the right direction and help you heal and help you grow. Finding the right church is the same, in my opinion. It's the same thing.
I
Just
agree.
because you go to the first one that you see that's in your
Little area,
denomination, right? It doesn't mean it's the one for you. I grew up in a Lutheran church, and Lutherans we're the closest there is to probably Catholicism as far as some of our I say rituals. Rituals always sounds cult-like when I say that, but practices or like, infant baptisms versus baptisms when you're, older, when you can actually have the conscience to accept Jesus, not just baby baptisms and other things, whatever. But like that type of church would not work for me today. I think I'd feel very out of place, and I wouldn't feel. It wouldn't make me feel closer to God. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see how that can push you away or maybe change your mind. Because when I lived in Arizona, we went to a very small church, and there was maybe 100 people at each Sunday session. Mm-hmm. And then we had our Wednesday night Bible study with, I think it was 2 or 3 different couples. There was maybe about tops 10 of us at one time. But anyway, that's where I liked the fit for me. That's what fit for me, was a smaller congregation, and it felt...
100's still not small to me. I'm like, that's still 100 people.
Oh.
But I guess compared to maybe some of these like mega churches, that's
Look
small.
at the mega church you go to here in Texas. It's probably a lot more than 100.
It doesn't feel it, I guess. No.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
That to me feels... I like the intimacy of a small congregation. When I go into an auditorium and it's thousands of people, I just don't feel the same, and I don't get the message as good, I don't think. Then that's just a personal opinion. That's just how I feel. So like I said, I don't necessarily need to go to a formal church every Sunday, but I have my own relationship with God, and I'm comfortable in that. Your dad gave me a Bible, and he gave me a book about being faithful as a dad, and
Which is hard.
it is very hard. But that's a couple of things as a good Christian you're supposed to do, is share the word and share the teachings. And
My
I think
dad will always do that.
Yeah, and I loved it. I thought it was great, and I think that can help enhance your faith for the better.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to, again, share those, and that can bring us closer. Because if I can strengthen my faith, then it can help strengthen our relationship. How do you rebuild your faith after this? People don't just lose the relationship, they can also lose their belief system. Mm-hmm. So rebuilding faith after spiritual abuse is a process, and it's a process of disentangling, separating the character of God from the people and systems that used his name to harm you. It's often a journey, and it's a journey of unlearning before you can begin to believe again.
So here's the separation that matters. God didn't abuse you. People used God's name to control you and to hurt you. So like you said, how can you come back from this? What are some practical steps to maybe help, if you were in this situation, get you back to the relationship you once had, and maybe even a better one? So separate the messenger from the message. Remember, they say don't shoot the messenger or whatever. But
Yeah.
You have to separate the messenger from the message. Remind yourself that the abuser did not represent God's heart. The abuser was not a good person. They did not have a godly heart, and they manipulated you and used his name to manipulate you.
Yeah, using the Bible and verses in their favor, yeah.
Entering a season of rest, right? And the church I've been going to, they've been talking about seasons, and it resonates with me a lot right now. But entering a season of rest. So authentic faith isn't built on muscling through trauma, right? Just sledging through the hard times. Rest is actually a biblical concept, and it's often the first step in recovery for spiritual or anything otherwise. So rest is really important. Rebuilding your personal connection, whether through prayer, journaling, whatever, without pressure and on your own terms. Rebuilding trust in your own voice. Any abuse trains you to distrust your instincts, your gut, and favor that authority. So rebuilding the trust in your own voice is really important and something that will help bring you back to where you want to be.
Faith should bring safety, comfort, and a peacefulness, not fear.
No. All right. If you were shamed into staying, you're allowed to question that, and you're allowed to leave.
That's right. You're not failing God by protecting yourself. You're choosing safety, and safety is what matters.
If you're being told that you must stay in an unsafe situation because of certain Bible verses or because of certain faith-based ideologies or sort of dogma that's keeping you there, please know that there's many faith-informed resources that help in untangling the scriptures from abusive control and how it's being used against you and to manipulate you.
Those can really help. And if this episode put words to something that you've been carrying, subscribe and stay connected. Like and comment if you've ever experienced this so people know that they're not alone. You're going through it or have went through it also.
And we also have shorter clips in between episodes. They're on TikTok and Instagram, and we'll have them linked below. So thank you guys for watching, and we will see you on the next one.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. Jesus loves you.